I've learned from my mentor. It's if you do things consistently, then over time, you're going to see the result.
Hey, everybody in the Owwl community. We are live on the Owwl podcast, and I'm joined by Ellie Santra, my co-host today. And we're going to get into our guest in a moment, Callie. She's going to be one of our best guests because she does amazing events down here in Boca Raton, all about networking. So we are super, super excited to have her on the show. But to start things out, Ellie, what's going on in the music world?
Just a lot of things in the work for me personally, and I feel like this is my year. That's what I keep saying. This is my year. This is Owl's year.
It's the year to soar.
Meeting the right people.
Somebody said, what's the word of the year for us? I'm like, soar.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. And I think that like for me, like this last year of just like networking for Owl events, and I'm finally hitting the right spots and meeting the right people, because it really is all, at least I think in music and every industry, a lot of it, I would say 75% is like who you know. Because if you have the skills and you have the talent, like then at that point you just have to make the right connection. So I think finally after years, it's like those connections are finally clicking in, and big things are going to happen.
All the tools. I see often everyone's like, well, I don't want to do another platform. I only do LinkedIn, or I do a little bit on Instagram, or I do a little bit on X these days, and a little bit of, in-person networking. But what I've noticed that you do is you combine them all, right? If you go to an in-person networking event, like the one you went with Kelly, you walked away with value.
Yeah.
You took some of those cards, and some of them became guests on the Owl podcast. Mm-hmm. Some of them weren't a fit for the podcast, and then you met them on Zoom. Some of them were a fit to go meet in person,
right.
Grab a coffee.
Like, yeah.
So I look at it as like, you always look at the angle. You look around.
Well, I meet someone and I go, okay, is this an Owl connection? Is this a music connection? Like there's always something that you can, or is this a friend? You can always find common interests with people. So yeah.
Well, we're on this topic. We have a big event that we are planning. So if you're tuning in right now, we are a major sponsor over at Podfest Expo. That's happening on January 25th through the 28th. We're going to announce all the speakers that are on a panel that I am hosting with Cindy Metzler. And it's exciting because this is why we're going to soar in 2024. Mm-hmm. It's intentional. We put these panelists together, and they're all going to host our interactive Owl podcast booth. We're going to be the only podcast booth that is live on the floor, and there's 1,500 plus attendees coming. And so their 10-year anniversary, and they're also hosting the Podcasting Hall of Fame there that Friday night. So most people just go with the booth. They're like, we'll wing it. We'll get some people to download our app. Not us. We bought hundreds of T-shirts. They'll say, you can pick my brain after you pick your payment method. You can only get one of those if you come on the interactive podcast. All the panelists have to host our booth. That was the deal if they were going to become a panelist. So we're very intentional. And that's what we're going to speak about today with our guests, actually, because you could run events, but you have to be intentional. You have to make sure you go in, say, what are you going to get out of it? Actually, Kelly asked me that today. She's like, what do you want to get out of, this podcast today? And I love that question, because you kind of take a step back. You're like, you're right. What do we want to get out of this? Right. Mm-hmm. We want you guys to call Kelly, and Kelly, obviously, to help you guys, and it lead to opportunities, and vice versa. We want her to obviously have a great experience on the show today, get great content. But before we go into her, go buy your tickets. We did post over at Owl app, and meet us. It's our first community meetup since we launched. So we're hoping to have over 50 people in our community join us. You get to meet myself. You get to meet Ellie. And hopefully Kelly joins us after hearing about all this excitement that's happening at the end of the month. So Kelly, welcome to the Owl podcast. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. It is January of 2024. 4 is my lucky number, and it's going to be the best year yet.
Me too. Well, 444. Yes. But yeah. Oh. So, woo.
I do put it on roulette. I always yell like low black and
I remember. No, I put it on roulette, and
I do too.
You were like
4, 6, 8.
No, don't do that. You're like, that's. Oh well, you never know.
Oh well. So Kelly, tell our audience a little bit about the Kelly Merbler company.
The Kelly Merbler company is actually celebrating its 6-year anniversary this month. Nice. So it's a big month as an entrepreneur. I mean, Jason, Ellie, every little step, every little milestone means a lot. But we are an organization that specializes in leadership development. We focus on building strengths-based cultures and strengths-based leaders using the assessment from Gallup, Clifton Strengths. That's the primary thing that my business does. But I also do a lot of keynote speaking at associations, conferences, events for corporate offices and leadership retreats. So as well as executive coaching. So those are the 3 buckets that we really cover.
And when it comes to leadership, I see a lot of videos about this on TikTok and Instagram Reels these days. It's like, you can't just open up a book, read it, and just execute. It's so hard. It's like everyone's always learning. Like the world is changing so quickly. Yeah. So what you think you should be doing, then it's like, it doesn't apply to your business. So you really need someone like yourself to really sit down with and really kind of say, okay, what do you think about this? My processes, and, should I be harder on the person? Should I not? Like, where are the boundaries, right? I mean, I struggle with this all the time. Right, being in the financial service business as well as running Owl. Like Owl's new to me, right? I have to handle things a lot differently. Like we have employees here, but then we also have brand ambassadors, and it's like the brand ambassadors obviously are not employees, so you have to handle those a little differently.
Sure.
So let's jump into like if I was your client for a second. Like how does this all work? Explain it like, I'm a leader of Owl and a financial service firm, and let's just make it about Owl for a second. What happens? I go to one of your events. I'm like, I'm really curious. Do we start with a one-on-one Zoom? Do we meet in person? And how does the business operate?
Yeah, I would love to have a conversation after an event. I mean, that's always a goal, is to meet great people that want to be better leaders or have better cultures within their organization. So absolutely, I would reach out, see if we can connect over coffee. I love coffee. So
coffee with Kelly, right?
Yeah, you want to tell our audience about our coffee?
Yeah, I can see it from
bar
here.
Over here.
There's a whole coffee bar.
We do. Mm-hmm. We do have Starbucks syrups.
It's pretty amazing. They
you want vanilla, hazelnut? We got it.
They literally had a menu when I walked in of what coffee choices I wanted. So
we don't mess around here.
I take it seriously.
We want you to be caffeinated when you come on the Owl podcast. But we didn't even have coffee today, surprisingly. Coffee lovers, and none of us have coffee. Probably the first episode, by the way.
Ever, yeah. New year, new us, I guess.
Right. We're like trying to go to sleep tonight and not drink coffee at 4:00.
Yeah. Yes. But initially, I would love to have a further conversation with clients that I get to meet, because I want to get to know you. I want to know what you're all about, what's important to you, what do you value, and what are some of the challenges that you're going through. We all have challenges in the leadership lives that we lead, and especially if you're leading a team and running a company. So I know you have typical challenges that I would have.
And explain to our audience, what are the typical situations that most people go through that are leaders?
How to keep their employees engaged.
Yes.
Is a big challenge right now.
Coffee. That I'm good at. That I'm good at. See, you just get coffee.
They don't need a coach. They just need coffee. Caffeine. Right? Absolutely. So
that doesn't work. Celsius, more powerful.
That's right. But how to keep employees engaged, it's a huge problem. How to overcome burnout. A lot of employees and employers, leaders especially, because they're carrying this huge load right now. Who's loving on the leaders? They're being asked to do so much and take care of their employees, but who's taking care of the leaders as well? So, what is it that you're facing? How to improve your culture? How to grow your culture? How to find the right people? How to retain the staff that you've hired?
Hiring is so hard.
All of the above. And I come from that world. I spent 21 years in the recruiting and staffing world. So I understand how hard that is. It is so hard to find good people. But when you find them, you got to make sure you can keep them, because I know how hard it is to find them.
Mm-hmm. So give us your best 3 tips for keeping them engaged. Right. And I'll share my 3, what I personally have done. Yeah. Right. Because, you could go back to any organization, look at track record, how long have people been with you? You're right. Is there a lot of turnover? Do the people that leave you call you still, or is it they're gone? Our bridges burnt.
Absolutely. So my best tip would be purpose, making sure that your culture has a sense of purpose. Do you operate under a mission, vision, and value statement? Values are a huge part of culture. And do your employees really understand what the organization's mission is? Do they feel that they're connected with the mission and that their job matters in the mission? Everybody's job matters in an organization, no matter if you have 500 employees or 3 employees. Do they understand that? So I always start with purpose and how to make sure that there's clarity in purpose where people are working.
So dive in a little deeper, because I see so many leaders, have a quote out front, they have in their manual, they have it on their email signature, but in the real world, it's like, it's boring. Like it doesn't really happen. Right. And sometimes it has to happen naturally. Right. I have to be like, Danielle, Stephanie, let's go grab a coffee. We're all tired, and make some jokes in the car. And those jokes make the day better. Right. And it could be little actions of saying thank you, or little gestures of, someone has a bad day, write a funny little sticky note, on their desk and be like, you're doing great. Right. Those are some of my things that I do. But like, how do you really get these folks that sometimes they don't have that personality to really like engage
and it probably depends on the size of the organization too. Like, because obviously we work at like a startup and there's only 3 of us. So it's easier to just be like, I'm going to take them to coffee. Whereas like if you have a really big organization, like the CEO can't necessarily like know what's going on like with the employees. So I guess that too depends.
And part of that is, are leaders set up for success in the process? Because there's so many times, I mean, I do a lot of work in healthcare as one example, and, a director of OR that I've worked with is the only leader responsible for 80 nurses. Yeah. You can't lead through touching 80 nurses on a weekly basis. Yeah. That is not set up for success. So our organization's setting leaders up for success, because if not, it's going to be a long hill, and you can only do what you can only do as a leader without burning out.
So like in that case, like that one person who's supposed to lead over 80 nurses, like would you say to the organization, we need to actually break this up into 40 and 40 and get another leader? Or would you say like what would you give like advice?
Well, I mean, that would definitely be something I would look at, because that's not realistic.
Right.
If you want an engaged staff, the leader has to be able to connect with their teams. And if there's not enough time to get to everybody, then people are falling short. They're missing that connection or those meaningful conversations. And so is that leader developing somebody underneath them that could be that next person on the bench, or potential future leaders that could potentially rise up to help delegate some of those duties for leaders that truly love doing that too. You've got to find people that play to strengths as well. Like there are some leaders that naturally that's just not what they do well. And you mentioned that, and doesn't make them a bad leader. There's amazing leaders out there that don't have that high emotional intelligence, but they know who to surround themselves with. They know who to surround themselves with, and complementing themselves with someone that does have high emotional intelligence, so they can play off of each other.
I love that you bring that up, because after 300 interviews through this podcast and my other one, I noticed that. Sometimes I'm like, that's the one that's running a $500,000 brand or $1 billion brand. And it's just that they're good at that. They're good at lining up the people next to them, and they know their strengths, and they don't try to do it all. That's not always like their thing, being like that specific type of leader, like Simon Sinek. Like he's amazing on stage. He's an amazing speaker, but like that other entrepreneurs, like they're not a great public speaker, right? They're great one-on-one, not in big groups, of course. How about on the flip side? How do you actually get clients, right? Because this is the biggest issue in almost every business. Like you could be amazing at teaching people one-on-one, but you got to get them to sit down and listen. Most people will not listen, right? I'm a leader. I get 100 million emails. I go to conferences, and I'm always like, I'm doing fine. And next, I don't need this. This isn't for me, right? So you have to get them. You have to have a marketing plan for your own business, of course, and a funnel, right? And of course, Owwl is a funnel, right? People call you. If you list your price low at $1, you're going to get 20, 30 calls in a month. If you put it up to $20, the odds are you're going to get only a handful. Right. And also it depends on your expertise. If you're a lawyer, you could charge more. If, you are a real estate agent, everyone knows your phone number is listed on a website. They call you for free. What are you doing charging $20 for real estate advice? Right. It doesn't usually match. So Owwl is a networking tool, but inevitably it's a lead source, right? People on there turn it into real relationships and real business. So in your shoes, how do you do it? Because you're in a very crowded space, of course, and a lot of leaders is like, it looks all the same, right? And that's a true statement. Same thing. Me being a financial advisor.
Yeah.
How many people will say, "Nah, I'm good. I have one of those." I'm like, "You have one of those?" I'm like, "Okay." We teach different things. There's different niches, right?
Got one of those.
Like give me a chance. Like I always had to have some type of rebuttal for that. And they're like, well, let me give you a second opinion. What's the worst case scenario? I teach you one or two things for free, right? And I'm like, give me 30 minutes on a Zoom meeting. And I always found something wrong 100% of the time. Now, they didn't always work with me, but they always would thank me after the meeting because I always knew every person's different. Everyone has different skill sets. So same thing with you. I know that there was 10 people, that I met with. You're going to teach me something regardless of me hiring you, right? So explain, how do you actually find clients?
I've been really, really blessed with my clients, honestly. The majority of my business does come from referrals when I've worked with someone. Looking back, when I did my annual review plan for my company last year, looking where my clients and my leads came from, there's two very apparent sources for me that have worked really well, but I also know there's so much more I can do that I need to be doing. But what has worked well for me is the referral source. And I've built really strong relationships through trust and great service for 6 years. And that takes a lot of time to nurture and foster. But I always really want to make sure I don't overpromise and underdeliver. So I'm very intentional about that.
Okay.
So that's been my number one source, and people have carried me forward into other doors. My number two source, honestly, has been LinkedIn.
Love it. Yeah.
That's
people say Owl's LinkedIn on steroids, and we're power users of LinkedIn. Me and Ellie are posting all the time.
Yeah.
We're big believers because you could get to the CEO of a company by just sending them a message. And most of the time it's not outsourced, their inbox. Yeah. And lots of times CEOs have like 1,000, 2,000 connections. Yeah. People don't realize like they're running $100 million brand and they're going to respond. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, LinkedIn is an amazing tool.
So give us a tip. What are you doing on LinkedIn? What's unique with your strategy?
I don't know if it's unique or different from others. I think it's just I'm consistent on the platform, and it's consistency compounds. As I've learned from my mentor, it's if you do things consistently, then over time you're going to see the results. It's like building your 401k. Just start making a deposit,
compounding,
and let it happen.
So who is your mentor? You said mentor.
John Maxwell is. I have many mentors, but John Maxwell is the one that truly I look at as the one that kind of took me from the rubble and helped me become a wonderful leader. But I have several mentors in my life, and I'm blessed to have them.
Now, was he a mentor your first year? Right. You said 6 years ago you started the brand. Obviously, the first year is always the hardest.
It is.
Did you have him by your side that first year?
I did not have him by my side, but I always had him where I could learn from him.
Okay.
Obviously, he's very busy, but I did meet him in 2014. Okay. And so that's kind of what led me to finding what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be.
I was going to ask about that, actually, because we were talking before the episode started about both of us. Oh, yeah. Switch it around.
There we go.
Both of us being in corporate and how we never want to go back. And
we were just talking about that.
Yeah, we were talking about it. So I was curious, when you knew it was time to make the switch, and just your journey with starting your company, and how that came about.
I spent, and millennials and Gen Z might fall off your chair right now, but I spent 21 years in corporate America, and I learned so much from it. But I decided after, I don't know, it was through the loss of my mother, honestly, Jason. I loved my job for many, many years. Love my job. But as time went on and different life experiences happened in my life, I really started to see life differently and what I wanted most in my life, and my values shifted. And it wasn't all about making the big paycheck. Don't get me wrong. It's nice to make a nice paycheck. I'm not saying it's not, but my values shifted where I really wanted to have more flexibility with my kids. I wanted to be able to have the freedom to make decisions in how I wanted to run my business. And I wanted to be innovative and do something that I thought the market really needed. And at that time, I really saw the need for leadership development. I was that leader in an organization that was promoted, but not developed per se. And I figured it out. Like, we figure it out.
Yeah.
But I wasn't necessarily set up for success. So I really started getting hungry to be a better leader and learn. And it was that quest of me kind of taking hold of my own future and studying and finding great mentors and really applying what I've learned in my leadership with the teams back in corporate America that really kind of lit my fire. And I said, I love what I'm doing to help myself be a better leader and teams be a better leader, that I saw a need for what it was. And then companies had a need for what I could potentially bring.
Nice.
So talk a little bit about the personal situation you went through, because I see that often. Like, I just saw Matt Williams from FroPro showing his video from like 10 years ago where he was an alcoholic, right? He had a major issue, and now he's so open about his story, and he helps other people. And I'm sure you know Matt Williams from FroPro as well.
Yeah,
So I just know, like I went through a personal situation, and I woke up, right? I had cancer last year. My dad, what he went through with his passing away 2 months ago, and just even prior to that. And I know, like, my big awakening was like, I got to eat healthier when I was diagnosed, right, with cancer. And then after that, I did the 75-day heart challenge. I've kept the weight off since. But now I make sure, like, that I'm fortunate. I look at it as like, at 40 years old, you get that knock on the door, say, what the hell are you doing? Wake up, like, be smarter. Like, I'm running a business. I don't always have to spend, those extra 3 hours from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night at the office. Like, it could wait until the next morning, and I could go out and play pickleball for 2 hours and get some exercise. So I made a point now, like, I'm out of the office 2 days a week playing pickleball.
Good for you.
And I'm just like keeping the weight off. I'm swimming every morning. But tell us your situation. Like, what impacted you to make this big shift with your values? And that could be an hour podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it short, but that's something that's really close to my heart, because people do ask me what really made the decision. So it was the journey of going through Alzheimer's with my mother, very honestly, and watching her eventually have to go in a nursing home. As an only child, my husband and I did the best we could to care for her, but life happens. You're working, you've got small kids. This is a lot of people's issue today, right now, as we speak. And for a year and a half, she lived in a nursing home in Boynton Beach, and I would go there to visit her quite often. And I will tell you that it changed my whole perspective of what life was about, because not only did I watch my mom and, how she was deteriorating in her life, but I made a lot of friends with the other patients there. And we'd have conversations, like sitting at the cafeteria table. And the one lady that really shifted it for me, I'll never forget what she said. I was sitting there with my mom and this other Alzheimer's patient, and she was coherent. She could talk. You wouldn't even know she had Alzheimer's, but she said, "It's so nice that you come here to visit your mom." She said, "My kids live 5 miles away. I put them through law school and medical school, and I never see them."
Oof.
And it was that moment that really shifted, because I knew that life was not all about the money.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the fancy car. They never asked about the money or the fancy car, or they never talked about the things that they had in their life. They talked about feeling loved and that they mattered. And that was what really started to come into my mind. And it just took me from someone that could be selfish at times, and I think we all are at times, but it really created humility within me. And that's what started the project that I do every year for Alzheimer's.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, because when you mentioned earlier about the Alzheimer's now, I'm like, it makes sense. Personal story.
But when you see that, I mean, Jason, when
I
you
went through it, I had to hire my father's first caregiver in Florida, and it's very hard. He had Lewy body dementia, and it's like
Horrible.
you know, we had to cover the glass. I had to leave work one day and put covers over because he was seeing people, and you know, in the early stages, hard. He was having a one-on-one conversation with you, and he's like, "Can you believe it? Someone walked in my apartment, and started using my bathroom at 3 a.m, and he's talking crystal clearly." And they're like, "Wait, is this real?" And then I had to nicely tell the person, like, you know, he has a condition right now. You know, he's on the earlier stages of it. But it was scary. My mom had to call police multiple times on him, and then you know, eventually it just turned to, you know, a facility full time. But it's years of that. It's such a horrible disease and so slow, and it's hard on that caregiver. You were the only one. You know, there wasn't other children that like, hey, you do it. It's like you had to do it, and it does change your perspective. And then you look back in life, you're like, oh, maybe I should have went boating more. Maybe I should have done this.
Absolutely.
You know, like everyone, you know, we had that moment, and everyone had this with COVID, right? That's why we've seen the uptick of entrepreneurship, right? Everyone realized, wait a second, what am I doing? You know, I don't have to just work a 9 to 5. I could start a side hobby, you know, and make additional income, something I'm more passionate about, right? And it could be, you know, decorating this water bottle, right? It could be, you know, you see all this stuff, like all these hobbies that have come out, and people are turning those passion projects into full-time projects. Our editor of the Owwl podcast, I'll give him a shout out, Brian Briggs. You know, he ditched the construction industry about 3 months ago. He's like, I'm going all in on podcasting. So he just did it. And it's just like, you have to have that aha moment to just go for it. And COVID really did that to a lot of people.
Sure did.
And that's where Owl is coming into play, which is a good transition to our next element of the show. We're going to call people live on the Owl platform. Is this, you know, if you're an entrepreneur out there or a solo entrepreneur, you know, of course you could, you know, utilize Owl as a tool when you get home from work, call people, network with them, and build opportunities for your business. Learn from personal levels, like what we just talked about. It doesn't always have to be business. You just want to have a mentor. You just want to have a voice. And we do Mentorship Mondays. We just changed it. It's going to be all day on Monday. No more 9 to 12 because the West Coast isn't awake most of the time. So we made a decision. We're going to give it a try all day Mondays. If you want to participate, we're going to pin Mentorship Monday to the top. You lower your price to $1, and of course, just network and connect with people. So it's a way to find a mentor, right? Everyone always talks, well, I'm looking for an expert to call. Tell people, like, how do you find a mentor? Like, everyone talks about it. And that's, you know, one of my pet peeves is like, how do you get one? I want one. Like, hey, is someone out there? Like, I don't have a mentor. My father was my mentor, you know, but now with the tech company, I would love a mentor, right? If you built an app out there, like, you know, find me, call me, message me on LinkedIn. Like, I love to have a one-on-one once in a while where I could just call your cell phone. It's not always booking. It's just texting. Like, I'm having a shitty day. You know, could I call you real quick? You're right. I went through a rough time, and with a tech company, we have, you know, money being processed. You could imagine the emails I receive.
I can only,
you know, it's horrible. You a dollar gets missing. It's like, you know, negative review here, email threats, loss. I'm like, just, we'll give you the money back. Why don't you just wait 1 minute? Right. So like we get a lot of pushback, unfortunately. But talk about mentorship while I look up some people that we're going to call. So if you're out there, get ready on Owl. We're going to call you. Okay.
So how I would go about finding a mentor, first ask yourself the question, are you ready for a mentor? A lot of people say they want a mentor, but are they ready to be mentored? And that was the first thing I really had to look at, because was I willing to put my self-defenses down? Was I willing to hear feedback that maybe I needed to hear, and get advice on what I needed to do? And was I willing to do the hard things? So that was the first thing I asked myself. And then the second thing when it comes to finding a mentor is, who do you admire? Like, who really do you aspire to have a career successful as? And it doesn't mean you're going to do the same thing that they are, but I look for someone that is about 10 years ahead of in business than I am. So they're just enough far away where they still can see what I cannot see, but they're not too far away.
Okay.
So that's another thing. And then who do I admire that I want to be mentored by?
Rebecca, you're live on the Owl podcast.
Hey, Rebecca.
Well, hello, Owl Podcast. Hoot, hoot.
Hoot, hoot.
Hey.
Hoot, hoot.
Rebecca, meet Kelly Merbler. To start things out, can you tell our audience in under 30 seconds who you are and what you do?
Oh, well, I am the global leading happiness specialist,
Wow.
inner peace practitioner, and student of the universe. But what I do is I share with people that happiness is a practice skill, and I share with people what to practice.
Love that.
Well, Kelly, do you have a question for Miss Rebecca?
Rebecca, there's such a need for more happiness in our world. We're living through a tough time. I always choose to find joy and the blessings that are in my life, but there's a lot of people out there that have a hard time with that. So, Rebecca, what advice would you give for someone in my network that is really struggling with finding happiness through a tough time?
What I always say, it is all the work is done in the mirror. And so before anything, you have to, are you willing to look in the mirror, because you have all the answers, you have all the solutions. And happiness, just like any other skill, from being a podcaster to being a writer, a speaker, an athlete, is a practice. It's a practice skill. So when I share with people, does anybody want to be happy? Or everybody raises their hand. Everybody raises their hand. But when I tell them that you got to go to the mirror, you can't blame your circumstance, or you can't even blame what's going on in the world about why you're feeling a certain way.
Yeah.
And who is going to contribute to the world? Somebody that has a peaceful vibration, a peaceful energy, or somebody that's angry and upset and revengeful. So what I do realize after 45 years of this work is that everyone isn't interested. And there are some people, I don't get it, but there are some people that are happy being miserable, that are happy being angry, that are comfortable, scratch the happy.
Yeah, I was going to say not happy, but they're probably so programmed and used to it that it's so uncomfortable.
There's a big group called lawyers out there.
That's so funny. And Danielle, it's funny you should say that, because the book that I'm writing now, and I found the editor on Owwl, and I'm in the stages, maybe the last is going to come out in a month, but it's called Program for Unhappiness. Exposing the untold truth. And in that book, I have 55 program behaviors that have been proven to subtract from what people say when people say happiness. And when I say happiness, it's not about, oh, something happens and I'm happy. And some people don't even like the word. They rather use joy or rather use whatever. But I'm really talking about an energy, a vibrational, a personal vibration that everybody can feel.
I like that. It's not like with my singing students, for example, like a lot of them want to know, like, what can I do? But it's really like undoing and unlearning habits that have been like for them, like in their bodies, like certain things, like nervous habits. So a lot of it is more like unlearning in a way, rather than creating new habits, if that makes sense.
Brilliant, Danielle. Brilliant, because that's what I say. You have to unlearn what you've learned.
I think we're going to maybe do our next caller, but thank you so much, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca.
We're looking at different people.
Roll the dice.
That are available. Oh, look at this. Hello, Linsaya. How are you? This is Jason Hill.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you are actually live on the Owwl podcast.
Hello. I actually was just directed to the podcast just a few minutes ago. I was just sitting down at my computer to go pull it up.
Oh my gosh.
Look at this. And now it's fate. We saw you were live. I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, she just joined Owwl the other day. Well,
I did, and I've had 3 calls today already. So definitely excited about this app.
And how did those 3 calls go so far?
Every single call has been beneficial. It's been insightful. Your ambassadors are exceptional. And it's got me all jazzed up about what is to come.
Got me jazzed up.
It's our year. We're soaring 2024.
So can you share with our audience in under 30 seconds a little bit about what you do and how you're going to make a dent on this world? And then we're going to have Kelly ask you a question.
Absolutely. I'd love to. I'm Linsaya, and I'm the founder of Wellness Warrior Collective. I'm a serial entrepreneur and a former brand director of the U.S. territory for a hair color company. And how I help and make such an impact on this world is through our community. We help humans amplify the wellness warrior within through our events, through our conversations, which we do live in the Clubhouse app. And we also host live events and through our podcast. So lots of powerful things that we're doing and virtual programs as well.
Well, Linsaya, it's nice to meet you. I'm Kelly. So I would like to ask you, what is your best tip for creating wellness in one's life? What would you recommend for 2024?
Oh my goodness. Well, for 2024, put more plants on your plate. Put more plants on your plate of all varieties. This has been one of the biggest health hacks that has amplified my wellness, has helped me throw away diagnoses that I was told I would have for a lifetime. And the phytonutrients are what fuel cell rejuvenation, and that is a lifetime of healthy living. So putting more plants on your plate is what I would recommend.
At first, I thought you said plans. Like get a lot of plans in your schedule. Like, get out there.
But that's very memorable, though. Put more plants on your plate.
Around you and on your plate.
Especially because we were confused at first, and now, it is memorable.
That stuck with me. So, Linsaya, I will absolutely remember that now. I'm going to go home and eat lettuce. Thank you very much.
But it's not that easy. How do we execute?
No, it is.
Like, I did the 75-day heart challenge last year, and I tried to improve, and it's like I did good for a period of my life, but then it's so difficult. Food is so good. I have 2 kids. I go out to dinner all the time, and it's just hard. Like, how do you execute?
Doctor it up.
It's people holding you accountable, right? Because if I'm held accountable, like when we did the 75-day heart challenge, we had to drink a gallon of water a day. But would you agree, Linsaya, is just the accountability partner?
I believe that accountability is a great thing, but the reality is to rely on other people to take charge of our health, I think, is where most of us find that it becomes hard because accountability won't always be there.
No.
I have found that knowledge trumps everything. The more that we know, the more likely we are to lean in the direction of our knowledge. And so for me, it's been really about the deeper understanding. And then also it's about recipes. It's about recipes, which is, I make a barbecue, like literally a buffalo chicken dip that obviously is chicken free because I am
where do you live? You coming down to Florida anytime?
Listen, I make a spinach dip that will blow your socks off.
Right, that's what I said. You got to doctor it up.
Are you going to Podfest Expo, by the way? I heard podcasts.
I want to be at her Super Bowl party.
Yeah.
Seriously.
My parties are definitely fun. Our retreats are plant exclusive, and I feed, again, we feed people for 3 days, and it's delicious, and nobody goes hungry. In fact, everyone is so full, and they feel so vivacious. And I, unfortunately, am not coming to Podfest, although I have started considering if I could make some adjustments to my schedule to get there. Because
I will give you a host of our booth.
That would be a blast.
Try to rearrange your schedule. We'd love to connect.
All right. Well, say no more. I will be taking a peek to see if I can make that happen probably as soon as we hang up this phone. So I'll definitely go look at the Instagram post.
Okay. Any last questions for her?
No, thank you, Linsaya.
I mean, yeah, my only thing I want to say is thank you guys for creating this platform, creating the opportunity for entrepreneurs and business owners to connect and create greater and deeper connections. I'm really excited about what I have, discovered. And I really want to say a big thank you to Stack, because he told me to get on this app a year ago, and I kind of heard it in passing and didn't really land with it. And I'm sad but that I missed a year, and I'm grateful that I've started now. So thank you all for what you're doing.
Hey, it's right timing because, after this event, I think it's going to be our explosion moment. We have a big update coming out in a week or so. That's going to fix some of our bugs. And then we believe it's going to hold more experts to continue utilizing it with some of the bugs that we're fixing. And then that event, we figure we're going to get at least 200 new experts based on how we're intentionally doing our booth. So it's perfect timing. You didn't miss much. And it's all about the future and connecting, as simple as what you're doing. Go live, keep your price down if you want more incoming calls. We see too many people just putting their price up high, leaving Owwl, right? Once you get to 10 calls, change your price. People get excited. Ooh, now you charge $10. And they think they're just going to win the lotto, and people are just going to call them. It's like, that does not happen in business. You don't just post on LinkedIn and say, hire me. I'm great at teaching leadership skills, right? Like it does not work
Nope.
like that. And then what happens is we see a huge fall off rate from 10 to 20. Always. And they're like, your platform was great, but I don't know, not many people call me. I'll go, whose fault is that? You're using the tool improperly.
Also making sure that you reach out to people
Yeah.
and call. Like you don't just sit and wait for calls, but people are as low as $1, they get to know who you are. It is a community, and then they can go in the chat forum and recommend you to other experts, and then you can get leads that way as well. So
Yeah. And
brilliant. Love the tips.
And it's crazy. The 2 minutes of tips we just provided is all it's ever done to make such a huge impact to other people. There's been people that have requested to delete the app. I told them that, like, try this method for 30 days. They try and they're like, oh my God, I got like 20 new opportunities come my way after doing it like that. And then they realize, like, oh my God, like all the featured podcast guests that we have, like Kelly, like she's going to be live in the next 7 days. Follow her, you get a notification. She's $1, right? And you can connect with her. And then maybe she'll invite you when she has her next event down here in South Florida. You just don't know what ripple impact it will have after contacting someone for $1, right? So too often people are like, well, I just want to take calls. I'm an expert. I'm like, we're all experts, right? Everyone, has a profile, but where else, is there the ability to connect with so many people this quickly? One day we'll all look back and be like, oh my God, like this cut out all the friction that all these other platforms had, which is messaging people.
Waiting and
Well, Linsaya,
amazing
Innovation.
Thank you.
You got to the full 10 minutes. See ya.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone see it?
Before we leave, I don't want us to forget.
Oh, yes.
Because we have a special little thing we do every week. It's called a bet.
A bet?
So we make a bet with all of our guests. So far, no one has won their side of the bet. So who knows? Maybe you will be.
You are right. 0 people.
0 people have won the bet. So maybe you'll.
Brielle did.
Well, she didn't do the bet yet because
the one person that we did do a bet with would have won. That's funny.
Yeah. So essentially, we will ask you for a favor. And if you complete that, then you get something from us. And if you don't complete it, then we get something from you. So should we just do the typical thing that we ask?
Let's do it.
Which is within
7 days.
Yeah, within 7 days, if you make 15
make or take 15 calls.
Make or take 15 calls on the app, then you can get something from us. So that could be you mentioned earlier when we were talking before the show that you wanted to eventually start your own podcast. So that could be potentially getting our studio for free for a couple hours to try your own podcast episode, try it out, see how it goes. We can show you how to set you up with all the equipment. You'll have our producer here. So that could be something we could offer you. We could offer you some Owwl merch. We could offer you
free ticket to Podfest Expo.
Free ticket to Podfest. I don't know. So it's your choice what you want.
So what's the bet?
On the spot. So it's just
the bet is we're saying that we're wagering 15. You have to do 15. So if you don't do it, if you do it.
So if you do it, then you get one of those things from us. So it's your choice.
Yeah, but we have to wager, she's saying.
Right. So then what do we get from you?
Ooh.
I'm trying to think. I mean, you do
Your
put on
next
events.
Event.
Maybe
event.
Jason.
We get a booth for free.
Yeah. Or Jason speaks or something.
Oh, that's a pretty good opportunity.
I can work with that.
Our booths are not cheap. I remember seeing the flyers coming around. Okay, deal.
Deal.
So 15 calls on Owwl made or received in the next 7 days. And we'll set you up with your account and show you how to use it. And we'll be available if you have any questions.
All right, bet's on.
Bet is on.
Woo!
I want to bet the bet that she's going to win it.
I actually
anyone out there wants to take the over under on this. We can put some real money down on this one.
I think she might be our first winner. I have a feeling.
That means it needs an extra special prize.
I thought last week's was
I know, it's true.
I could have sworn like she had so much confidence. I was like, wow, we bet a lot last week too. I was like, she's going to win this one. And it did not occur.
Yeah.
And it's really like anything else in life. It's that first step, it's like that first time going to the gym, right? The first time going on the diet. It's like, it's always hard because it's change, right? But then once you do one, like we just heard from Linsaya. She's like, I just went live and I got 3 calls. She's like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Right? She's waiting for more and more calls. And now she's on the Owwl podcast that quickly. But we have a lot of people that's just like, it's literally this.
Yeah, but I think
here's a timer. You log in and you just set yourself available for any amount of time. And then that just puts you at live status.
so you can be doing
Yeah,
your
well,
other work
alright.
and then just you can be on other things on your phone and then someone calls you just like a normal phone call.
Got it.
But I think maybe what I've learned from the last episodes, the people that talk themselves up and are like, I'm amazing at this. Like, this is easy. I used to be in sales. Like, those people are probably bullshitting, right? So maybe Kelly, who's just like, deal, like she's going to be the one, you know, she doesn't have to brag. She has a good track record. So
Okay.
we'll see.
Well, Kelly, thank you for joining us on the Owl podcast today. For our audience listening, of course, they could call you on Owl app momentarily, but what are other ways that they could reach out to you?
Obviously LinkedIn. Let's start there under Kelly Merbler. Instagram, Kelly Merbler Motivation. YouTube, Kelly Merbler Motivation. And www.kellymerblerco.com.
And real quick too, you have your coffee, Kelly.
Ooh,
Coffee with Kelly's,
Kelly.
right?
Everyone is always welcome to coffee
So,
with Kelly.
and where is that? Where can
It's
people?
on my website. So go to www.kellymerblerco.com and just click on the link that says Coffee with Kelly. It is free.
Okay, and it's a Zoom, right? Every
Zoom.
Friday.
It's every Friday. Well, almost every Friday, unless I'm traveling. From 8 a.m. to 9.
And it's like a networking event, essentially, or
It's honestly a global community of people that are looking for professional development.
okay, sounds good.
So
You just one-upped us. You have coffee on your website. We have to do this too. Coffee bar, but we're not out there on the web like you are.
Yeah,
come on.
You're getting me excited.
yeah.
This
Yeah.
is no longer the Owl podcast. This is the Coffee Podcast.
Yeah.
We're switching it up.
Coffee talk.
Thanks again for joining us. For everyone listening, we'll be back next Wednesday. Take care.
Post-production for the Owl podcast is done, with care, by Brian at Ocean Tree Creative. OTC offers full-service podcast post-production, as well as social media video production, and coaching and mentoring on both areas. Reach out to Brian via the link in the show notes.